Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. I am outside the AMC in Port Chester, New York, because I just saw a movie. Typically, I would be telling you that I'm fresh out the theater. However, I had to compose myself. This movie got to me. Third act really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I also wanted to make sure that I composed myself so I could write down all the names of the people that deserve credit. I don't normally do that, but this movie begs you to credit all the people that deserve it here, because this movie, I walked out of this theater a week ago going, I can't believe I live in a world where somebody could make a movie where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage in a movie, and have it work and be as much fun and be as amazing as it was. I just came out of that theater right over there. I don't know how a movie like this exists at all. I mean, I guess in the world of comic books, especially at this current time, it makes sense that it exists. But I honestly don't know how a movie like this exists, but I am so glad that it does. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, almost fresh out the theater, into Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Oh my goodness me, was this movie something, man. Wow. I part of me is sitting here, you know, if you're looking at the multiversal Corey, C-Man, the C-Mans and the Coreys that exist in all the different multiverses, there's one that is sitting in a theater going, what did I just watch? And then there's a bunch like me who are well-versed in comic books and the idea of the multiverse, and if you were going to take the idea of the multiverse and remove it from the comic book world, right? Like, we're about to get Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness. And that's 12 plus years of storytelling, decades of comic book material. For that to work the way that it's, like, I know it's going to work. Look, DC, I think this Flash movie, if we ever get to see it, is something that will also work. And again, I think that will build on the strength of a comic book history. But you look at what Marvel's about to do with Doctor Strange, like, this movie is going to work because we've been telling stories for, like, over a decade. To take the concept of a multiverse and just apply it to, like, say, me. I'm just in the world walking around, and all of a sudden, boom, somebody from the multiverse pops up, and your whole life changes. That's the movie that we get from writers, directors, the Daniels, Daniel Kwan, Daniel Scheinert. These, honestly, after watching this movie, I think these are the only two guys that could have possibly done this movie. If you are familiar with the Daniels, maybe you will have seen a movie that stars Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano called Swiss Army Man. That is one of the most out there, bonkers, insane movies that just lends itself to performance. And Paul Dano is tremendous. And Daniel Radcliffe, I tell you, I always talk about how that guy has wanted to distance himself from Harry Potter so much that he just takes the craziest roles. Swiss Army Man is the epitome of that. I mean, mild spoiler, he plays a dead body that Paul Dano uses as a Swiss Army knife to survive in the wilderness. That's the general concept of the movie. And if you've seen Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, you can understand how those guys that made that movie made this movie. But this thing is tremendous, man. I mean, I was going in here expecting a wild sci-fi action movie. I mean, you got Michelle Yeoh as a star. You've got friggin' Short Round, one of my all-time favorites from Indiana Jones. Data, from one of my all-time favorites from the Goonies. Huy Quan, back in movies. And the clip that they were showing on talk shows was him kicking ass. I was expecting some real awesome stuff. And I tell you what, all the cool sci-fi stuff, I got. All the cool action stuff, I got. But then I got so much more. I mean, conceptually, the idea of how they use the multiverse, reset this movie's concept, essentially, is Michelle Yeoh's character is contacted by somebody from the multiverse. There is a threat that is going to potentially destroy all the universes. And they're trying to find one version of Michelle Yeoh's character, Evelyn, that can save everything. That's the concept of the movie. And it works in a sci-fi action way. I mean, the action in this movie is insane. Michelle Yeoh is, I mean, we know she's a legend. She's magical. Huy Quan, unbelievable when he got to do a little bit of action. And the funniest thing for me, and this is where, like, this movie is just weird, like, the moment you're waiting for where Michelle Yeoh really lets loose in the action realm, it involves some of the strangest stuff you've ever seen in your life, man. Like, there are two characters trying to do something that you would never expect to see in a movie, ever in a million years. And that's the thing that I love about this, is that it's just not about sci-fi. It's not just about action. This movie's got tons of comedy in it because it is absurd. I mean, we are talking mild spoilers, but things that I believe have been in trailers, or at least talked about at this point because the movie's been out for a while. But, I mean, I'm never going to be able to look at raccoons, hot dogs, everything bagels, we'll just say trophies. There are a bunch of things in the world that I'll never be able to look at the same way because of how they are used and what they represent in this movie. And it is out there, and if you're going to do a multiverse movie with regular human beings, you've got to be completely out there. And this movie leans into that, and that's one of the things that makes it work. It's also one of the things about halfway through, I was like, I don't think I can give this movie... Man, people are crazy tonight with the cars. But it was like the type of stuff where I was like, I don't know if I can give this movie a 5. Just because I don't think it's landing everywhere. That's when the third act, like the end of the second act and the third act kicked in. And all of a sudden, this thing on its story level, like, I mean, what Kwan and Scheinert do from a directing standpoint, I mean, the camera moves wonderfully. The action is conceptualized beautifully. The choreography that's in there, just the weirdness to the movie, how the camera operates, the way they jump through multiversal type stuff, all that stuff is on point. And the story, like I said, it's out there. But the third act is where it all clicks in, man. And this thing brings it home in ways where, like, it hit me in the chest because it hit with really, really close personal things. And you're just talking about, like, family. Michelle Yeoh's whole family is throughout, her in this entire movie, like, throughout the course of Evelyn's journey, her family is with her. How family ties into this and what that means and what that can mean in a multiverse, right? Where different versions of yourself could happen in different things. And the idea of a multiverse, and where if there is an infinite number of views, what's the point of everything? Like, a movie that could be out there and bonkers and wild as this can actually sit there and contemplate, what's the point of anything if that many different universes exist? This thing is tremendous from the writing and directing standpoint, from the Daniels, as we like to call them. But also shout out to the fact that they got the Russo Brothers to direct this, or produce this thing, right? Like, if you're going to get a couple producers to do a multiverse movie, I know the Russo Brothers haven't been involved in the Marvel multiverse stuff yet. I hope they come back. But being around Marvel, I think they understand the multiverse a little bit, and I think their understanding probably helped the conceptualization of this movie and made it work. And it's really the first thing that I've seen them produce that's popped in a way where I'm like, yes, this is the stuff that I love from these guys when they're producing movies. So that was awesome. And then this thing is just all about the acting, man. I mean, Michelle Yeoh, like I said, she's a freaking legend, and she is tremendous in this. Yes, the action is all there, but I tell you, man, the third act, when the emotional beats need to start hitting, all the little things that Michelle Yeoh does throughout the entire movie that you're not even thinking about because you're so wrapped up in the sci-fi and the fantasy and the action. All the little things that she's doing when she's not doing those things in the first two acts. Get to the third act, and the stuff that she's doing as an actor, oh my goodness, man. I was weeping in the theater. Like, just the tears wouldn't stop rolling, man. And it's art. When you watch someone like Michelle Yeoh act, it is art. She is a treasure.
Oh, hey guys! Of course, in a video where I had notes, I forgot stuff. But talking about Michelle Yeoh, I just wanted to mention really quickly that one of the most fascinating things for me with this movie is where her character starts and where her character ends. Her character doesn't really seem with it at the beginning of the movie, and the thing that I find ironic and kind of funny is as the movie gets crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier, Evelyn gets more and more and more with it, where all of a sudden it's like mentally, where she's kind of not together. The crazier the movie gets, the more lucid she becomes, and I just thought that was fascinating, and how that plays into the overall story I just thought was really cool. So that's all I got. Back to the other guy.
And speaking of treasures, there's a bunch of them in this movie. We already mentioned him, Huy Quan. I mean, I love this kid. And when you've heard his story, I say check out his Jimmy Kimmel clip. When he was on Jimmy Kimmel, he talks about leaving acting because it was hard to get work as an Asian actor as a kid after boom, boom, back-to-back Spielberg, Lucas movies. You know, but like to see him come back, to understand why he came back, and to get this opportunity to come back and do what he did. Oh, I hope like he's been doing production work behind the scenes for years, he said. But I hope he stays in front of the camera. He is so enjoyable in this movie, and what's wonderful, it's just basically an older version of Short Round, man. I mean, his voice is the same, basically. Just like if you imagine it aged a little bit, that's what it sounds like. He looks just like him, like Short Round. I mean, you just sat there and seeing how much fun he was having and knowing a little bit about his story, like, oh, it was just so enjoyable to watch him absolutely crush this thing. And not just crush it, but crush it next to a legend, man. And he holds his own the whole movie, both from the action, the comedy, just the outrageousness, and then the emotional stuff that hits, you know, in that third act. I mean, the stuff that these two actors are bringing is unbelievable. And there's a third. Also brings tremendous stuff. Stephanie Sue. Wow. She plays Evelyn's daughter, Joy. Complicated, interesting character. And again, not somebody I thought a lot about necessarily in the early parts of the movie, but in the third act, holy cow, man. Like, it just all comes together, and you're just sitting there and you're like, I can't... How did they all do this? You know what I mean? And then you got a couple of legends in here. Jamie Lee Curtis, that's a fun little cameo. I mean, it's basically a cameo. She's in throughout the entire movie, but I would say it's a cameo. Definitely was one of those like, hey, Jamie Lee, you want to come have some fun? Yeah, I'm going to come have some fun. And she has a ton of it. And then, I mean, national treasure, living legend. I mean, the man's got over 600 credits on his IMDb between voice acting and regular acting. And I mean, you can't not mention the legend James Hong. Oh man, it was so awesome to see him in this movie. I've been just watching a bunch of stuff in the background while I'm like at work, like when I'm working and stuff from home, and he's popped up in a bunch of things. I'm just like, dude, he is a living legend. He's a national treasure. He's wonderful in this movie. And again, someone else who's just kind of there the whole movie, and the third act, boom, kicks you in the face where you're like, I didn't know that that's where it was gonna go. And the last person that does that, and probably does it more than anybody, I have to call out Tallie Medel, who plays Becky. Becky is a very small role, but is one that is so impactful at the end of this movie. And it's the work of all of these people that we're talking about that makes this thing just so exceptional. And like I said, I wasn't sold on a 5 about halfway through, but the second half of this movie, I mean, shoot, I'm telegraphing. Let's get the Sea Maniacs up, man. I mean, you're talking about a movie that deals with the multiverse in the real world and does it in a way where it works and it makes sense. It doesn't try to overcomplicate things. It keeps moving. It goes out there. It takes swings. What Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert do from a writing and directing standpoint, it's risky, but it's worth commending. And the execution is tremendous. Acting-wise, I mean, Michelle Yeoh, legend. James Hong, legend. Jamie Lee Curtis, legend. Huy Quan was a legend back in the day for us, for people who were kids back in the day. Now he's back. He's going to become a legend real quick. You just wait. I mean, what all these guys do, I mean, especially Tallie Medel, Stephanie Sue, like everybody that comes in from the acting standpoint, everybody that's involved in anything, whether it's the score, the camera work, I mean, everything is just clicking. And when you don't know if this movie is going to land it, you're thinking, it's not going to quite land everything. Wait till that third act kicks in, and this bad boy is obviously a 5 out of 5 for the Sea Man. I've been talking maybe the most in-depth I've ever talked right out of the theater, but this thing had me thinking, man, like I'm sitting out here contemplating life in like all sorts of crazy ways. Like it did exactly what a movie like this should have done, and I can't believe that it exists and that it's that good and that they pulled it off. Like they take so many big swings and it all works, and it really works because the material is great and the actors that are delivering the material are living legends and just deliver it in a way that makes it all connect, where it's like you're not even realizing that these emotional beats are going to hit in the third act, and then you're just like, oh shoot. Now granted, my life has me in an emotional way quite often, and I connect with things quite differently than other people, but trust me, this movie will connect with lots of people. This thing was absolutely tremendous. I loved it. Now I know what you're thinking. Have you been out to see everything, everywhere, all at once. Like I said, it's been out for a while. I want to say it's been out for over a month. If you've seen it, what'd you think? Don't spoil anything. But do you view hot dogs, raccoons, everything bagels differently now in your life? What did you think of the writing, directing, the acting, everything going on? If you haven't seen the movie, have I enticed you to want to see the movie? Is this something that gets you excited? And also, I mean, the other thing too, representation, right? I mean, this is a Asian cast, an Asian-led cast. The representation here is wonderful. How they bleed in culture and stuff too. Like, this is a movie that does everything. So if that's something that's enticed you to want to go see it, I want to know. Tell me. And then if you see the movie, come back, tell me what you thought. Anything you got, good, bad, and different, on everything, everywhere, all at once, down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please, would you give me a thumbs up? And if you're new, you want to come hang out, see me anytime we're talking about movies outside of the AMC, trailers, TV shows. You want to be here for my multiverse coverage around Doctor Strange, or just anytime I'm talking, you want to show a little love and support. Well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation. All you got to do, super simple, jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Mans, cinema, sit down. Oh, we living in a multiversal world. I wonder how many times I have said this in so many universes. Who knows? It's kind of one of the nights where you look up at the stars. Oh, I'm drifting off, man. This movie's got me thinking. So I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.